you. So my promise in this video is to give you unique insight, unique perspective on what you can do in 2026 to grow and scale a personal brand that brings you clients every single day. What I want to talk about in this video is a little bit different than the typical advice you see around this topic. I know a lot of people in the industry, in the space, will tend to make this idea of starting a personal brand seem like it's a very easy task. So, I want to tell you that it's not an easy task. It's a very, very difficult process because it requires so many elements to work cohesively together, right? You need to have a strong identity. You need to have a very unique angle, right? I call it the purple cow theory that we'll talk about here in a moment. You need to have an extremely strong belief in yourself and belief in the work and the content that you're putting out, right? If you don't believe the message that you want to share with the world, then nobody across the camera is going to believe it as well. So we'll talk about all these different things. I also want to talk about why you shouldn't consume what everybody else is consuming, because your message and your content is going to sound like everybody else's, right? We live in a ecosystem right now where everybody and their mother is starting and building a personal brand. So you're not late to the game. It's still very early for you to build a very impactful and powerful personal brand that again brings you clients in every single day. But again, let's do it in a manner that is unique, is interesting, and allows you to really thrive and succeed long term. So the first thing I want to talk about is this idea of having a strong identity. So the previous video we were talking about getting out of your own way, reducing overthinking. And the reason you need to have a strong identity, a strong mission, is because it's very different than goal setting, right? When you have a strong identity, this isn't something that is going to expire. This is something that you're going to continuously work on, and it's your life work essentially. So the stronger you are as an mentally, the stronger identity you have around your beliefs and the processes that you want to share within your content, the stronger your personal brand is going to be. And you really need to decipher between this idea if you're going to be an entertainer or you're going to be an educator, because these are two very different routes that you need to take. As an entertainer, you need to maximize the viewership that you're receiving on a day-to-day basis, and as an educator, you need to make sure that there is depth and value within your content that actually creates some form of transformation, right? To actually turn these people into paying clients. So once you have a strong identity, a strong belief, you have rock solid foundations, you need to follow this theory, which is essentially the purple cow theory. So if you're driving down a road and you see a meadow of cows, while you're driving, you're not really going to pay attention to all the cows because they all look the same, the typical white or black cows in a typical green field. But if you're driving down that road and you see a cow that is purple, that's going to make you look. It's going to be something that stands out. It's going to be something that catches your attention. So within that process and within thinking like this, what can you do within your personal brand that allows you to stand out in that manner? I'll give you guys a couple great examples. So if you're Daniel Dalen, for example, great creator, he is a talented entrepreneur who has a business in China, who travels the world, and has a very unique perspective and take on business. So just in what he does within his content and with his vlog, it's already much more interesting and allows him to create a series, a vlog series, because there's so much going on in his life. He's managing a business, he's sharing his personal insights, personal development, but all packaged in a manner that really stands out, right? So that's super important in this process. And another good example of this is, to have that it factor. It's not just simply about your personality and your presence on camera. You can be someone who just does really cool things, right? Like when we look at a brand like Red Bull, right, where they spend the entirety of their marketing budget on just doing the most outrageous stunts, right? It brings them so much more exposure than if they were to sit there and create content about the drink itself or the ingredients and things like that, right? So you want to think about what in your domain, in your niche, what is the wow factor, right? What can you do that's so different that nobody else is doing, that can allow you to really stand out? And in the space of education, I just think it's putting all the cards on the table, right? It's giving the best insights, the best perspectives, the frameworks, right? Giving away all the best value for free, because if the best value that you put out actually allows somebody to receive some kind of result. So like if I'm giving advice in this video, you go out and you do a great job, and something I advised you started to work or it led to a specific action, you're going to always attribute that success to the, creator or individual that shared that with you, which is so impactful and so important in a process like this. The next part of this process, especially if you want to be an educator, right, you need to have some form of authority. You really need to have done something in life before you come in and kind of share that with people. So in my particular case, I've built several different businesses to over 40K per month. I've helped clients, in total generate over 500 million views on social media and over 10 million in sales across all my clients, from an enterprise level to, an individual creator level as well. So, coming with that kind of authority and perspective, it really allows people to understand the value that you bring to the table, and allows you to really, again, believe firmly the things that you share with people. If they don't feel like you believe what you're saying, again, it's going to be a very difficult uphill battle within a personal brand type business. And the other kind of element and aspect of this that really allows people to succeed is you got to play to win, right? So if you think you're just going to wake up and yap to the camera in any format, right, or any form of media, and it's just going to work after a few posts, it's really not. And I know you know this, especially watching a video like this in 2026, but a lot of people don't play to win. They don't use their strengths, they don't use their unfair advantages, and you have to look deeply at what those are. Is your personality presence on camera really strong? Do you have great communication skills? Are you able to articulate a message very, very firmly in a manner that's enticing? Are you a good-looking person, right? Lean into these advantages, because it's going to really serve you and support you. And one of the concepts that I spoke about in the previous video was making it exist, right? And then making it better. So trying to perfect it, trying to get the perfect gear, trying to um, have it be this perfect process in the beginning is almost impossible, right? Any great creator, Mr. Beast, I Show Speed, all these different people, they just made the thing exist at first, right? Speed was doing Twitch streams in his bedroom. Mr. Beast was doing webcam videos, just counting to 100,000, right? By the 50th, 100th video and so on, the budgets increased, the process of creating increased. So you just got to give yourself that room to make it exist in the beginning and find your lane and find your perspective. So from a data perspective, because you guys know I love data and the YouTube analytics and things like that, even on other platforms as well. But from a data perspective, you shouldn't look at the first 30, 40 videos that you post. You just got to figure out, do I have the discipline, do I have the consistency to actually stick this and play this game to win, right? Because a lot of people, after they try it for 20, 30 videos, they realize that they're not actually as excited or passionate to run and create a business like this. It's so important to be authentic, because if you're not, every time you go, the reason there's friction when you go to create a YouTube video or to create content on any format or any platform, it's because it's not coming from an authentic place. So if you're lying in your content, if you're sharing perspectives that you don't even believe or frameworks that you don't believe, there's going to be friction every time you go to create, right? It has to feel like a flow state if you want to spread your story, your message to the world, and so on. So all these things are super important. The next thing I want to talk about is this. You have to remember, when you're building content online, this is one of the pillars of leverage. So when we look at, this incredible section of Naval's book, there's really three main powerhouses that create leverage for a human, right? So it's code, right? Creating a piece of software, creating a piece of tech that you build once and you can sell it forever. That's a form of leverage. Content is a form of leverage. I can share this video and it can reach 100, 1,000, 100,000, or 1,000,000 people, right? I don't have to recreate this product every single time. I could create this video and I could share this link endlessly, and it could, again, inside an organic algorithm, reach people endlessly. So content is a huge leverage point. And then the other one is capital. So having capital to be able to not only hire people, but capital to make more capital, and so on. So when you look at the most successful people, especially the people who ultimately become billionaires, they essentially hit the trio, right? So their content, or their piece of their product essentially is a software, or something that is built once and it can be sold forever consistently, right? You don't have to put in more man hours to recreate that product every single time. So code, and then having some form of content around it, and then of course having the best capital flow into your entity is incredibly important. So these are all things that will happen later in a business like this, but I just want you to know that when you build a personal brand and you build an authentic brand online on YouTube and other platforms, you're using one of the most incredible pieces of leverage. So don't underestimate it, right? Our goal here isn't just to create content that gets AdSense money, right? Our goal is to build an incredible, powerful personal brand and attach it to some kind of product within your domain and within whatever you want to teach or entertain in the world. So just understand that you're building something extremely powerful that can really change your life. I've seen this kind of stuff change my client's life, right? I helped a client named Ali, and he's in the productivity and ADHD niche. He's a NASA engineer. He has a PhD as well. We started a YouTube channel for a business. He wanted to start on the side while he was working his NASA job. And within the first, 2 months, we made 70K in sales on his ADHD productivity related product. And his channel, within working with me, went from 100 subscribers to 10K within those first 2 months. And then now it's sitting at, over 20K subscribers. And that business is doing well over 1.6 million a year now. So hats off to Ali for being extremely consistent and introducing new channels of growth as well. So when you start a YouTube channel, you have an audience, you have this mechanism of organic client acquisition, but you could add so many different things. You could add products and upsells. You could start running, paid media on top of your organic, which is going to make your paid media even better. But just through the action of starting and creating organically, it really kind of proved the market for him. Another client of mine named Leo, the first 5 videos of us working together, the channel grew to over 125K subscribers, 125,000 people. That's an incredible form of leverage. And one of the videos we produced as well ended up hitting 5 million views. So just so much opportunity for you to capitalize, especially if you have that wow factor, that it factor. You are a purple cow that stands out through the things that you do in your life. And it's just an incredible opportunity and an incredible time for you to take advantage of these things. So the next thing I want to share here, just to get a little bit more tactical, if you look at the process that people are typically using within their personal brand when they're creating, they're typically using the outlier theory. So this is essentially finding a video that's outperforming a channel's average. So, if a channel averages 10,000 views per video, and then they post a new video and that video gets 70K, 100K, or a million views, it's beating the channel average. So essentially it's an outlier. It has a multiplier. You guys have probably heard this before, especially if you're a creator or a YouTuber. But the problem with this is that everybody starts to look the same. Everybody starts using the same big outliers, and there really isn't uniqueness among all these different creators, right? Even people who are competing in the same niche. So yes, it's important for you to use outliers, to use proven thumbnail, title, and hook concepts and structures, right? Especially as you're learning. There's no problem with that. I always recommend it. But at a certain point, you need to start A/B testing your own creative ideas, because it's always the creative ideas that ultimately become the outliers. So if you're leading an outlier process or leading an outlier video, it's incredible because a lot of people are going to copy that, which just brings more traffic and more brand exposure to your stuff. So my advice isn't just to find outliers, find a title format or a thumbnail structure that is unique. What I think would be incredible is you use YouTube's new features of thumbnail, A/B testing, and title A/B testing, and use an outlier concept, right? Create the right thumbnail that matches it. Obviously make it fit your own, steal like an artist, but create a sub, test where you create your own creative spin and idea on what this thumbnail can look like, and create a completely unique and creative title, and test the two. And a lot of the time with, across the board with my clients, we're finding that the B test is beating the outlier test. And it's allowing them to generate a lot more views and get completely fresh new audiences on their stuff, because it's just inherently more unique than following the typical outlier process. And of course, within the different options and platforms that exist today, you really want to lean into your skill set, right? And you want to lean into a platform that suits your thinking process and suits your actual ability. So I think your success is largely dependent on your ability to speak, to write, and to articulate and package ideas. So the name of the game with a platform like YouTube, especially if your skill set is on camera, again, your ability to articulate and communicate, you have a great personality, or you're just doing something that has wow factor, YouTube is a great place to start. It's my favorite platform. I have some clients that thrive and do extremely well on platforms like X and Instagram and so on. So this process, this ideology here, this philosophy works on every single platform. You just have to pick the one that's more suited to your strength. And I always recommend you go very hard and you focus on one platform first in the beginning. Once you have some traction, some success, an audience is building, your product is starting to essentially generate some money, then you can branch into other products. And especially if you build this top down, so if you build long form content the same way I'm doing here in this video, I can take that long form content and turn it into Instagram Reels, TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat posts. And then all of that can be turned into some form of audio, and then that can be turned into some text-based, writing-based content as well. So if you build it top down, it just makes this process a lot easier, and a lot of people will overlook this. But kind of narrowing this in, again, your success is largely going to be dependent on your ability to package ideas. So when you think of a platform like YouTube, there's really a three-step process that is the most important thing that makes all the difference between a successful YouTuber and somebody who is just going to struggle on YouTube. And it's very similar, again, to the other platforms. So when you think of YouTube, the three steps are essentially thumbnail, title, and then affirming that click, that hook within that video. You could make the best video in the world, but if your thumbnail and title are not interesting, nobody's going to click, right? YouTube is not going to grow the impressions. YouTube is not going to continue to grow and push your channel. So really spend a majority of your time on a platform like YouTube on the thumbnail, right? And that thumbnail has to pose a question. That thumbnail has to catch their eye, right? The brighter your thumbnail is, the better. The more interesting the colors are, the more interesting the concept in the thumbnail is, the better off you're going to be. So packaging, a great thumbnail that catches the eye, because you're competing with 16 other videos on the YouTube homepage. And then once I look at the thumbnail, once my eyes go to your thumbnail, I've started to pose a question in my mind. I want to move to the title, and I'm going to read that title. So it's very important that your title not only supports the thumbnail, but it also asks another question, or it poses another question in the viewer's mind. Don't put the same text in your title and in your thumbnail, right? Add more depth to what the thumbnail is trying to show with your title, right? And especially when you're somebody that isn't known, this is the bread and butter. Like, you have to get really creative, unique mechanisms, unique approaches, unique philosophies, things that people haven't necessarily seen, but packaged in a way that seems familiar almost. It's so powerful. And then the next part, once you've gotten the click, you've earned the click on a platform like YouTube, you need to reaffirm that click. So if I'm doing a video where the title is something along the lines of the unconventional path I took to building a 40K a month business, and have an interesting thumbnail that catches the eyes, as soon as I click that video, you have to affirm that click. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to build an unconventional 40K a month business, right? It feels good when the click is affirmed, right? When you give me perspective, just some like retention tips here, right? You reel me in with a strong authority statement, which simply means give the credibility. Why are you credible to be speaking on this topic, right? So that they listen. Alex Hermosi does an incredible job of this. When you click his video, he talks about acquisition.com right away. He talks about 250 million that he does within his business, right? And then the other part of this is to kind of tease them a little bit, give them some perspective on what they're going to get in the video, right? In this video, I'm going to be covering 3 things that you need to achieve this result, to help you achieve it in this specific time period, and make it, again, more possible and more likely that they would achieve it. So again, really important things to just kind of make sure you're following the right principles in the beginning, and you're going to get better at this the more you study, the more you practice, the more you implement. So testing and learning is the name of the game. And a lot of the time with YouTube too, it's really interesting, other platforms as well, you could break all the rules and still find a lot of success. So the process here is just make it exist, and you'll get better 1% every single day within an ecosystem like this. And a really interesting strategy that I use across the board with all my clients is kind of figuring out their viral format. Right, so you're gonna have to do a lot of testing, a lot of learning, until you find a format that not only the algorithm likes, but your audience likes and would consistently watch. Because the name of the game on YouTube isn't just retention; it's how many minutes does your audience spend with you? How many videos do they go and watch and binge? Right? Can a person watch one of your videos off the first time of finding you? Can they go and watch 2-3 more videos? YouTube loves that kind of stuff. So putting links in your description that not only to your videos, right? Let's say you're referencing a powerful video on YouTube, and you link that in your description, and the individual goes, watches your video, then clicks the link, watches somebody else's video. That's still, bonus points for your channel. And YouTube loves that because you're letting this individual stay on the platform longer, which obviously creates more ad revenue. Create the most value, especially if you're an educational creator. Create the most value within your content. Be very consistent. Put out some incredible stuff, and then you want to direct all that traffic to essentially what is called a VSL, a visual sales letter, that allows your audience to learn more about your case studies, learn more about your testimonials, learn more about what you can offer them. So when you're putting out all this incredible content, you're generating a lot of traffic, and then in the description of every one of those videos, you should push to some form of VSL. This is essentially a YouTube video that's branded in a way where it feels like an authentic and normal YouTube video, but what you're doing inside of that YouTube video is sharing, the dream result. What's the dream outcome for your audience, right? What specific problem are you solving for them? Show case studies and examples of them, clients achieving the result very fast, quickly, right? Achieving the likelihood of them achieving that result, and so on, which is really, really important. So create a certain amount of content first, right? Get your reps in, and then from there you want to really start thinking about, okay, what kind of video can I send them to again just nurture and start that conversion process, right? Get them interested of booking a call, get them interested in looking at your offer document, get them interested of going on your product page, whatever it may be, a school community, a high ticket VSL landing page, maybe they're signing up to a webinar, and so on. So if you can get really good at organic, you can allow yourself the ability to prove that there's a market, there's a demand for the thing that you're selling, and then at the same time you're essentially building the roadblocks and the foundation of what can come next, right? So there's no rules, there's no ceiling to what a business like this can produce income-wise. So all the guys that do webinars and produce, $1 million months, the number one thing that allows the creation of $1 million months is simply having enough sales reps, having enough salespeople with filled calendars, right? So with organic, it's really powerful because you're developing so many soft skills. You're developing the ability to communicate and articulate in content if you didn't have that skill already. You're developing how to craft a good, strong offer that actually generates some form of interest, right? Of calls, of appointments, etc. And you're developing your ability to speak and articulate on camera. So the day that you decide, hey, I want to do a webinar, or I want to do some other form, some other mechanism within this process, right? You want to run ads, you're going to be so much better than the guy who's just starting without this previous organic experience in content, in speaking. And when you have all that down, again, the number one factor that's going to allow you to produce incredible, revenue numbers is going to come down to how many sales reps can you manage and handle. Can you fill their calendars up, right? But in your process, like when you're doing this alone, I want to share with you guys that this could be a very comfortable 40K a month business. You could do it solo. You can take all those sales calls. I've done it many times myself with different consulting offers. I had a consulting business with my buddy Trey. We posted one YouTube video a week. This business was generating 40K a month of us just providing value and selling a specific consulting offer. I did my own consulting offer where I did YouTube videos, just walking in my YouTube video, walking in my neighborhood, creating YouTube videos where I would service agency owners and giving them my perspective on how I built a 50K a month agency. And that turned into a 40K a month monthly recurring business. So, don't underestimate the profit and the revenue you can make with even a small YouTube channel that has very small subscriber count. I was doing 40K a month with 400 subscribers. So when you have that perspective, again, you don't have to chase virality. You don't have to chase views. Obviously, the more people that know you exist, the better, right? When we look at Alex Hormozi's $100 million launch, even with the millions of dollars he was posting into sending into ads, and with all the stuff he was doing with organic, some people in his audience didn't even know he was launching a book. So this idea that you can saturate your own audience or saturate the market is impossible, right? Not even if you spend millions of dollars. So that's beautiful. Is if you could just focus on getting the highest number of eyeballs that make sense, that are relevant to the product that you're producing, then you'll find a lot of success with something like this. And what's surprising to me when I talk about organic content or an organic acquisition is how many big enterprise companies, how many startups, how many individuals are not leveraging a platform like YouTube, for example. So again, Instagram, X, all these different platforms are great and can generate a lot of business for you. But YouTube is different because an individual is spending, you know, not just minutes of their time. It really stacks up, right? If somebody's watching several of your YouTube videos, you're looking at 30, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours of time spent with you. So just think about how much trust and value is being built in a process like that. So that's why I personally love YouTube. That's why I think it's the platform that a lot of people should start with, because it creates a lot of revenue, and it's very fulfilling as well, right? I love the long form pieces of content, but again, there's many different strategies catering to whatever your niche and industry is. When you start a YouTube channel, when you're building, organically to not only build a brand but also, generate a lot of revenue, this is your life's work. So this is something that you want to start and you never want to stop, because if you treat it that way, if you treat your YouTube channel like it's a vessel, right? It's a documentation vessel. No matter what business you're building, no matter what project you're working on, if you can just make your YouTube channel 1% better over the many years that are going to come, you have a huge shot at becoming a incredibly big brand, right? But a brand that creates a lot of impact and a brand that creates a lot of awareness to your products. So if you treat your YouTube channel like it's your life's work, you're constantly going to learn, you're constantly going to do projects, you're going to build businesses, you're going to share experiences with the world. If you treat it like that, then you'll never give up, you'll never stop. And a huge problem with any social media platform or personal branding is consistency. People get washed out of this game so fast. And even the people who do it for years ultimately get burnt out because they start creating from a place that is inauthentic, right? You only feel imposter syndrome when you're lying to your audience, or you only feel imposter syndrome when you don't genuinely believe, again, the things that you're saying. So that's important. Treat YouTube like your life's work. You'll do it forever. And I've seen this so many times across clients. Think of your future kids, right? Think of the people in your family, right? So I know a lot of people will tell you, block the hater family members or the friends that you don't want to see your content. That's completely fine. You may need to do that just to have mental clarity. But an interesting analogy that I like is, if you can treat your YouTube channel or your media work as something that your kids will watch in the future, that really creates a sense of responsibility. It's not added pressure. It's actually a beautiful thing. It allows you to create from a space that is so authentic, so genuine, and so real, right? Like if you are going down the education path, you don't have to lie to make yourself better, right? You can be somebody who's like, hey, this is my journey, this is the stage I'm at, right? And this is where I'm trying to go, and everything I learn along the way, I want to share with you, right? That's a lot better than coming into it trying to claim that you make 100K a month when you really haven't, experienced that or done that result. For me, when I kind of talk and share through content, I've built several businesses to 40K a month. I've built an agency to 50K a month. I've had a lot of success in the corporate world as well. But I'm still on my mission, right? I'm still on my journey of cracking bigger revenue goals and bigger businesses, because I have a reason to, because I have the mindset to, the ambition to. But I'm not going to sit here in front and lie and put a fancy car in front of you just to get my point across. I could still provide a lot of value and serve incredible markets. I've worked with a lot of extremely big enterprise companies and helping them with their sales and marketing and so on. So you just got to be honest about where you're at with your journey, right? We're all on a journey. We're all at different stages. Some people are further along than others, but don't. Another point there is just don't compare yourself, right? Focus on your work. Focus on your craft. Because the truth is, anybody that is a master at their craft, they have spent decades within that craft. When we look at I love this talk on YouTube. It's called How to Speak by Professor Winston. He used to lecture from the 1970s. So he lectured for over 30 years, and he would have a lecture about this ability to, or him teaching this ability to speak better, right? To have better presentations, to package your ideas better. And he used to, although he had done so for 30 years, he used to practice this lecture, every morning at 6 a.m. or anytime he was going to go to give it, he would practice it at 6 a.m. And a student had asked him, why do you practice this lecture if you've been doing it and teaching it for 30 years? And he's like, because I have this responsibility to be a master at my craft and responsible of sharing my work in the best manner possible, right? And it's tried and true, right? Anybody that spends decades in one domain or, one specific, project, or mission, you're just gonna be so much further along than everybody else, right? And that's the key here is treating this like your life's work. So the next part of this video, I essentially want to show you a model that can allow you to create and produce, a 10K per month business, 40K a month business, even up to $1 million a year business, right? Especially if you sell something that is a little bit more expensive, a high ticket product. The reason I always recommend to my clients that they sell something expensive is because it takes the same amount of time and the same effort to sell a $24,000 product than to sell a $100 product. So especially in the beginning, you might be in a time crunch, you might want to produce more revenue in the beginning, and you're going to do that by being more specialized. So you want to find an offer, a product that is unscalable. So think of like the most ridiculous thing that you could possibly sell and start with that, right? Service a few people, learn the problems that they're experiencing so you can put that back into your market. But essentially, what I want to share here is kind of this additional 3-step process to actually generating business with your YouTube channel and with your other social media platforms. So obviously we need attention, we need to attract clients, we need to convert these clients, and we need to deliver results to these clients. So in the mechanism of attracting clients, you're looking at lead generation, you're looking at lead nurture. So you have to generate eyeballs and you have to generate attention in your content. So you could do this with any platform. This can be X, Instagram, YouTube, and so on. And essentially what you're doing is you're creating eyeballs and attention and traffic to your product. Traffic is the number one thing. It's the most important thing, right? The difference between a successful business and a non-successful business is how much traffic, how much attention are they able to generate within any mechanism, whether it's paid ads, organic, and so on. So once you have leads coming in through the daily short form content or through the long form YouTube content that you're producing, you want to have something that gets people interested, right, in what you have to serve. So in order to do that, again, we want to nurture the clients. So a couple different mechanisms that you can use to nurture people. So you can send them to some form of VSL. So we talked about this, where you have enough YouTube content and then you start sending people to a YouTube video. It's packaged like a YouTube video, but it's really a sales letter, a sales video to start to nurture that audience more and get them thinking about the transformation and the dream result that you can help them achieve. So VSL is an option. You can send them to some kind of email list, right? Start building your own email list. That is an owned audience. That isn't a rented audience. A YouTube audience, Instagram audience, and so on. That's rented because the platforms could disappear. It's very unlikely, but if they disappeared, then you have no way of tracking and managing all the contacts that you've made over the years within your audience. So you can do VSL, you can do email, you can do by chat. So you can get people to DM you on Instagram or DM, a business WhatsApp number, and you can talk to people there, right? Hey, thank you for watching the content. How can I serve you? How can I support you? What do you like about the content? What goals do you have, etc. So a typical sales process that can be done via some form of chat, long form content. So if you're doing daily short form, you would send people to long form YouTube videos because again, that builds so much trust and so much time spent with you. And the reason we love that is because the more they trust you, on YouTube, you're looking at a 50% conversion rate on a given sales call. So if you're the founder taking a sales call from your YouTube audience, you're looking at a 50% conversion. And if you're not good at sales, you could still convert at like 20 to 30% as well. So that's amazing because, you don't need a big audience, right? You could, again, have a very small audience and still produce 40, 50, 60K months simply with an organic type business, right? I've had so many clients that have done this. If you're interested about, learning more about some of my case studies and what I've done with clients, there's a way to contact me down below. So those are just a couple ways to kind of nurture those audience. You could do free workshops. You could do a live monthly automated webinar where you give a lot of value. You share, the transformation, you share the pricing. And then in order for them to buy the product, send them to book a call, right? And then you can close those deals. So all of them work. It's just pick one that suits you. Some people don't like sales calls. I don't get that. I love sales calls. I love speaking to my clients before working with them. And it allows me to really make sure I can get them an incredible result. We'll get to delivery in a moment because it's very important. It's your reputation. But again, all of these different things work. So if you send people to an email, that works, like an email list. If you send people to a VSL, that works. If you send people to DM you the word taco on Instagram, right, or whatever it might be, and send them an offer document, that works too. They all work. It's just I prefer the simplest one, which is simply YouTube content to some form of VSL to a Calendly link and then an actual sales call that we do together, because I love meeting and working with my clients in that manner. So the next part after you've attracted clients is, converting them. So again, like we talked about, you can do an offer document, you can do a book a call, you can do a sales call, and essentially this is your appointment engine. You want to schedule live appointments, Zoom call appointments, because that's more leverageable than, of course, doing in person with all of your clients, especially if you have a business that can serve a big market. So I love my choice. My appointment engine is going to be Calendly calls and doing live Zoom calls with my potential clients. And in some cases, when it's an enterprise situation, I like to go in person and sit and meet, obviously, with these bigger companies and pitch the value that I bring and the support that I have. So once you have that's simple, right? Send them to a simple landing page, send them to your school about page, or send them to an opportunity to book a call. The next part is delivering. So really, really important here. We want to focus on the outcome in a specific set time. So you can do this by selling a monthly recurring business, like a monthly recurring product. Let's say, you charge 500 bucks a month, 1,000 a month, or all the way up to $5,000 to $10,000 a month, or even if you do like a low ticket community, those are great because you don't have to rebuild your business every single month. It's a consistent revenue business. If you're going down the low ticket route, in my opinion, it's harder. It's much easier for you to sell more expensive stuff to people that have the money, that have big problems. So solve bigger problems, solve rich people problems is my recommendation. And then you're essentially showing them that you can help them achieve the result, or solving that big problem that they have in a specific fast period of time. So you can do like a hero product where it's $6,000 for 6 weeks, and essentially that's the program, right? Or that's the opportunity that they have with you. Or you could do something that's a little bit longer and has monthly recurring element to it. So it just depends on your market and depends on the LTV that we're looking for. But the beautiful part of this is it's organic acquisition. So your cost to acquire that customer is going to be extremely low, which is why I love organic content. Like, even if you run ads, even if you love other processes to getting clients, you should have an organic client acquisition process. Like, it's silly not to have one. And that's essentially it. So you want to attract clients, you want to convert these clients, and you want to turn them into customers, and then you want to just deliver a fantastic product, right? If your product is amazing, people will talk about it, people will share it, you'll get incredible referrals, and so on. So that's really the game. That's really the process of building a personal brand in 2026. If you need help doing so, I would love to share some more case studies and processes that I use with clients. You could check out some of the other content, or you can book a call with me below. Again, you can contact me in the description. And I really hope you guys found this valuable. You're going to learn a lot of these things along the way. Again, there's a lot of soft skills that are really important in a process like this. Speaking, articulating, communicating, your value in a convincing way, in a persuading way. That comes with reps, that comes with practice, right? And then also building a product that produces results may take you some time if you've never done it. So feel free. It's not a bad thing. You're not failing if you take on a few clients for free in the beginning and then get them incredible results and use those case studies and testimonials. So all these things work. It's just, can you be somebody that sticks to this process long enough? And I think something as well that a lot of people forget, I want to share this before we wrap up this video. If you're somebody who's vibe coding, or you're a software engineer, or you're creating products at scale, if you don't have a distribution plan in 2026, you will fail, right? You could have the best product in the world, but if it doesn't have distribution, right, in any channel, whether it's organic, paid, etc., you're gonna fail, right? And there's a lot of companies out there, they will find a great idea, build it just as fast as the company that just built this great idea, this great software, but they're really good at marketing, or they have a really good distribution plan, so they get to market first, right? And then not only do they get to the market first, they get all the customers because people are actually aware of their product. So it's one thing, yes, it's very important to have an amazing product, but it's 50%. Like, these two go hand in hand. You can't just create a good product and not have distribution, or have a lot of distribution and not have a good product, right? So these go hand in hand. Think of that as you're building your plan for your product. Think about your plan for distribution, right? The earlier you get to creating distribution, the better it is. Again, huge fan of organic. Everybody should be doing organic. Every business in the world should be making long form content because of the impact it has on your customers and the relationship and the sales nurturing that it creates. So again, if you haven't started this, you have to, right? It's so important. So again, I hope you guys found this valuable. I'm posting consistently on this channel, so if you have any questions, anything I can dig a little deeper on, I would love to. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you guys in the next one.